Small.
The world
after
Monsanto.
Monsanto. Chemistry is working for it.
People belong to the land did not belong to people. And in this European world, people farmed the land in a collective way because they saw it as a...
In Tomorrowland.
Over 12,000 years ago, people began planting
Pursuit of profit is an old story, but there was a time when many things were regarded either as too sacred or too essential for the public good to be considered business opportunities.
Thousands of varieties of rice
they were
grown.
protected by tradition and public regulation.
Over 5,000 kinds of potatoes were cultivated worldwide.
We can really begin to take a look at the emergence of the modern age with the enclosure movements of the great European commons in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century.
In the U.S. alone, more than 7,000 varieties of apples were grown in the 19th century.
And over in Europe, there were lords and barons who had control.
Beginning with Tudor England, we began to see a phenomenon emerge, and that is the enclosure of the great commons by parliamentary acts in England and then in Europe. And so first we began to take the great land masses of the world, which were commons and shared, and we reduced those to private property. Then we went after the oceans, the great oceanic commons, and we created laws and regulations that would allow countries to claim a certain amount of water outside their coastal limits for exploitation. In this century, we went after the air, and we divided it into air corridors that could be bought and sold for commercial traffic for airplanes. And then, of course, the rest is history.
Dishwashing chores will be a pleasure, especially
in the
when this
20th century, the face of farming underwent a radical change. The manufacture of nitrogen-based bombs during World War I led to the development of nitrogen-based chemical fertilizers.
I come from the heart of the prairies, Saskatchewan, the heart of the grain-growing area of Canada.
Nerve gas, developed during World War II, was slightly modified to make insecticides.
While father has a quick electronic shave on the house, daughter finds a lavatory that can be tailored to size. Propso 1. Convenience is right at your fingertips here.
DDT was the hero of its generation.
I was charged with by Monsanto that I was growing their genetic altered canola, GMO canola, without a license.
Our next adventure awaits us in Tomorrowland.
New technologies promised higher yields, increased food production, cheaper prices, and greater availability.
This fantastic world of the future is just a few steps across the plaza from the worlds of yesterday and today.
By the mid-20th century, these technologies, along with new developments in plant breeding, led to the Green Revolution.
And as we enter, Tomorrowland's
I think the
famous
people who
world
first
clock shows the
imagined the
exact
Green
time for any
Revolution
place on Earth.
had good hearts. Lots of people are starving around the planet. That's long been the case in human civilization.
They said it would be a better
Their
yield,
thinking was if we could just systematize agriculture like we did industry in the 1800s and bring it worldwide, bring one system that works, we can solve the problems that people have long had with agriculture.
The yields went down, especially in soybeans and in
it's possible.
And some countries we so call it.
Our next adventure awaits us in Tomorrowland.
Who are controlling us and our seas and food supply. So, number 1.
Mexico is the center of origin for corn. To preserve its corn's diversity, Mexico has banned genetically modified crops. However, due to the NAFTA free trade agreement it signed with the United States and Canada, Mexico cannot stop the massive importation of American corn, 40% of which is genetically modified.
Terminator genes.
This industrial corn, as it's called in Mexico, is highly subsidized by the U.S. government. So on local markets, it costs half as much as traditional Mexican corn.
The yields went down. Number 2,
It's always open house, so let's join the others for a preview of tomorrow's living.
Do you always make your tortillas with local corn?
Yes.
It's natural and has a better yield.
The nutritional value has gone down.
Also, it's more nourishing because it comes from pure soil.
And some of it, maybe to half of the nutritional value it had before.
That's blue corn. In the past, my ancestors only planted this kind of corn. Today, we maintain it as well.
The U.S. and then to Canada.
It existed before the Spanish conquest.
Yes.
What has happened
There's another
now to
kind
us
of conquest.
in Western Canada and the northern plains?
What's the new conquest?
It's the transgenic conquest that wants to destroy everything by making local corn disappear so that their industrial corn can dominate.
These plants presented a phenotype. That is to say, flower shapes that were very different.
I'm going to show you some photos of some corn plants that we took in our region of Sierra Juarez.
Some have flowers that are identical to their natural counterparts, like here, 4 petals with 4 sepals.
We'd like to know if you have already seen this type of plant in your community.
But others have abnormal flowers with abnormal hair or strange petals.
Normally, a corn plant is not like that.
We are using more chemicals ever.
In addition, some are completely monstrous.
They are really monsters.
And other plants have turned into weeds.
In Mexico, once the transgenic corn seeds have been released into the environment, will insert themselves into the genomes of the local Mexican varieties.
Usually, we see these types of plants along the roadside or in people's yards. It's possible that people buy corn in the shop and they drop some kernels while walking.
But don't you think it's Monsanto's strategy? What they couldn't achieve legally, they are trying to force through contamination?
Instead of lords and barons now.
Yes, we end up wondering if the contamination wasn't intentional.
Because my wife and I were seed developers in canola for over 50 years. Never had nothing to do with Monsanto. We never bought their seed. We never went to a Monsanto meeting. We didn't even know anybody from Monsanto. So we immediately realized that possibly our pure canola seed that we had developed was now contaminated with GMOs. Canada ruled that it doesn't matter if Monsanto's gene gets into any life form by whatever means, they own and control that higher life form. GMOs in it. So you could lose, as I said, your rights. Not only happened to me, but it's happened to many, many farmers, not only on the prairies of Western Canada, but also on the northern plains, to farmers there.
Be seeing you. Obey the rules, and we will take...
With deregulation, privatization, free trade, what we're seeing is yet another enclosure, and if you like, private taking of the commons.
The community can rest assured that their interests are very much my own, and that anything I can do to maintain the security of the citizens will be my primary objective.
Call it rape. See, rape.